Some people cover culture. Some people create it. And then there's George Stroumboulopoulos, who does both. From MuchMusic to The Strombo Show, from punk rock basements to political roundtables, from interviewing legends to becoming one himself, he's been a voice, a storyteller, and a signpost for an entire generation. But here's the thing. He's usually the one asking the questions, but not today. Today, we're turning the tables, peeling back the layers, and getting into the real signs that shaped his journey. The ones he followed, the ones he ignored, and the ones that might still be guiding him. Welcome to There Were Signs. So obviously music is woven into everything that you do. That's certainly not a surprise. But tell me about the first time a song or an album actually changed you. Not just one that you loved, but one that altered the way that you saw the world.
I feel like the first time I heard it's either going to be Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare. He performed it in the 70s on the Muppet Show. And I saw it when I was somewhere between 5 or 6 or 7 years old. I don't remember. But I remember that. I remember the opening scene of the Muppet Show, that particular episode, because they would have a cold open and Scooter would come in and say, Mr. Whomever, Mrs. Whomever, we're ready to start the show. But Alice was covered by these weird, creepy, crawly creatures. And Scooter, I think it's Scooter, said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know why they're doing it." And he's like, "Oh, no, they're with me." And it was almost like the lights went out of my eyes. And I got so into all this dark music. I remember another show called The Hilarious House of Frightenstein that had Wolfman Jack. And I keep thinking about an actual Wolfman playing songs, a DJ. And I think about the Rolling Stones there. But I remember probably being about 8 or 9 when I heard the Sex Pistols' Anarchy in the UK. It came out only a couple of years earlier. And I remember the line. I grew up in a very religious home. And I remember the opening line of the song, which is, "I am an antichrist, and I am the anarchist. I am the antichrist, and I am an anarchist." I'd never heard anything like that. I'd never heard anything like that. I don't think anything like that maybe had been made, and there was just on that level, and I knew it was wrong according to how I was raised. But I was so attracted to what they were getting at. And I didn't even really understand that till I got into my early teens, when you start reading books about stuff and articles. And, I was very political, even at a very, 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 very young age. I was writing letters to the House of Commons when I was a kid, asking for reports from them on what they would say in the question period. So the Pistols' Anarchy and that opening line completely rewired me.
Lyrics are so powerful. I echo that so much. Music is beautiful and, creates that other element, but it's the lyrics for me too.
Yeah. I mean, think about how simple the Bob Dylan melodies are guitar-wise and the chords he plays, but they're really not that simple when you dive into it. And you just think, oh my God, it's what he said and the way he said it. It's just changes. That's the other thing too, right? So I got into Bob Dylan very young. My Uncle Paul, who's no longer with us, but Uncle Paul loved Dylan and would play Dylan in the home all the time. And so before I was 10, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, into my early teens, Dylan was a staple. And I think that's one of the reasons why I care so much about what artists say.
And that's the other thing about that is, to your point, even before you understood what it meant, maybe it already penetrated your brain.
Yeah. Planted seeds. And I'm just really grateful that I grew up in an era where artists took their role in a very responsible way, where it wasn't just about their expression. There's value in your expression, but if it's just your expression, that kind of stuff doesn't resonate with me. And when you hear somebody who realizes that we have an opportunity to talk about the world, the personal politics, but also the politics, The queens and the kings and the queen slayers and the king slayers were in my childhood, and I'm so grateful for that.
To that point, the people that you've interviewed, those incredible music icons, Bowie, Prince, Joni, Downey, even, happy birthday. Was there ever a moment where you thought, this isn't just an interview, but it's so much more?
I feel like when I got to meet Joe Strummer from The Clash, I felt, because while the Pistols were the band that did it for me, The Clash was the band that solidified my desire to be try to be a guy who made a difference in the world. The kind of weird stuff you think about when you're 10 and you don't know who you are. The Clash really helped me crystallize what my role was as a person. And meeting Joe was kind of crazy. And I recognized that partway through that interview, I have not seen it since we did it, and that was 25 years ago. But I remember at one point asking questions just to hear him say certain words, because I wanted to hear words that I remembered from songs, because I know the Clash catalog so well, and I'm so obsessed with so much of Joe's delivery. So I think at times I probably did stuff like that.
Try to sneak it in there. You're like, say it, say it, say it.
Yeah. Like I wanted to hear him say "clamp down," and I wanted to hear him, because I still believe we're all working for the clamp down. And I wanted to hear him say "White Riot," because that was a very big song for me, because that was the one that my uncle explained to me, that this was about uprising and protest, and it was putting respect on the Jamaican protesters and uprisers in London, and police brutality and the abuse of power. These things you don't know when you're a kid, right? Or I didn't know when I was like 9, 10, 11, but my uncle said, well, that's what this is about. So, and if you're already feeling angry and disenfranchised, I think you can take that fire that burns inside you and do one of two things. You can either burn the city down, or you can use it to warm the city up. And when I got older, I was like, I got to warm shit up, because I can't be this angry kid that just wants to burn everything to the ground. I know why people feel that way, and I respect that in a way, but I didn't want to be a destroyer. I wanted to be somebody who cleared a path and used that fire. And honestly, Cass, I think the Clash were fundamental in my guidance in that way. And so, yeah, when I talked to Joe, it was not lost on me, because he walked in, "How you doing, man?" He goes, "How you doing, mate? I'm Joe." And he gets out of a car, he's wearing a white t-shirt and black jeans and black jacket, gets out of this car right by a church next to MuchMusic. And he gets out, and I see him get out of the car, and I remember just thinking, oh my God, it's Joe Strummer, still fucking Strummer. And he's like, "How you doing, mate? I'm Joe." And I'm like, "How you doing, Joe? I'm George. What a pleasure." And he's like, "Thanks for doing this." And I just pause because it's not just that I love the music, it's that it is singular in its impact and the man that I became, right? The stuff that he and Mick and Topper and Paul wrote.
Those turning points, I feel like you must have had many, especially with, to your childhood, and then suddenly being I'll say adult. I like to use this word, adult.
Yeah.
When you're an adult, and then you're seeing these people and meeting them, and having your own experiences, sometimes on camera, sometimes very much not.
Yeah.
Talk to me about a decision that, looking back, was something that stands out, and there'll be many, but something that stands out right now to you for a big
decision that I made.
Yeah, a decision that you made that changed just so much more than you could have imagined.
Quitting drinking. Quitting drinking is the single biggest decision I made in my life. That was 30 years ago. Quitting alcohol, and, well, honestly, choosing not to have kids. That's been a great gift for me. I've lived a life of like adventure in a way, and I couldn't have done that the same way. But quitting drinking, so here's what happened to me. I'd never heard anybody say this. It just kind of dawned on me one day. I was very sick. I had doctors tell me I wasn't going to survive if I kept going the way I was going. I was living hard. And and I was working hard. I had 3-4 jobs at a time. Everything from making sandwiches in the afternoon for the lunch rush at a Subway, to driving a forklift unloading airplane containers of cargo on the weekends, to working at a movie theater as an usher, to part-time work at a community radio station, to delivering Italian newspapers. I was working hard, but I was also really partying. And I don't know where the phrase came from, because I'd never heard anybody say it, but to myself, I said, if you're lucky, because I had to make some, I could tell I was in big trouble, right? Especially when they told me I was going to die. And they kind of gave me maybe 1 night to 6 months, right? Where they said, you got about a night to 6 months before you're gone. I remember that very clearly. And I thought to myself, if I'm lucky, I will be older a lot longer than I'm young. And if I want to be older longer than I'm young, I'm going to have to be very accountable to myself. And nothing and nobody, no culture, no nothing, like, no, I mean, the culture of my life that I had built, none of it. I needed to be ridiculously courageous with no reason to believe that I could be. Except, and you know, it's funny, years later, Gord Downie wrote this lyric, and it haunts me to this day, and him and I have talked about it, which is will and determination and grace too. And that became, in a way, without, I didn't quite articulate it when I was young, but that's really what this life has been for me. It's about will and determination, but grace too. And I have benefited from others. I tried to create space for others. But that decision, when I was 22 years old, it was, again, it was more than the drinking thing, but it was just stop being a fucking idiot and dig in. Like, dig in. No one expected anything of me. I had no future. I had no education. I had no prospects. I had no ambitions. I had no interests really in doing anything in life aside from listening to great music and partying. I wanted to make films, but I didn't think you could. I didn't know how to do that. But I just said to myself, and plus I grew up really, really, really poor, right? Mm-hmm. So really poor. So there was no prospect of anything working out. But I just said to myself, oh, shut up. Just do it. Do it. You'll die anyway, maybe, but you might not. And see what happens. And that's, so what I did was I remember quitting. I moved back into my mother's basement. I stopped hanging out with my friends, which was the hardest part. But I was working at that time. One of my jobs was at the radio station, The Fan, the sports station in Toronto. So what I did was on my off days, when I only worked like 3 days a week. I went in every other day that I wasn't working, and I would go into a production studio, close those vertical blinds. I would wait. This is pre-internet, really. And I would wait for the clock in the studio to hit the top of the hour. I would steal music from other studios, and I would fake a radio show. So I went on the air to nobody for months, every day, just to stop me. And I would do like a 7-hour shift. I would go long just so that I wouldn't go out. Right. And I think what happened was, and it's the Kobe thing, really, it's funny you see all the Kobe clips now, but what happened was in my moment in my life when I was rewiring my brain, I married that, I powered that rewiring with creative expression, will and determination, and discipline. So even now I'm not motivated most of the time. I don't want to do anything, but I have discipline. And that's what separated me from the old version of my life. Yeah. Was I worked the discipline into it. And honestly, I can look back, and I don't really talk about this too often. I mean, people know parts of it, but if I start with you, Cass, to kind of trace it back, I can see how I'm the guy I am today because of this and this and this and this, and a whole bunch of breaks, a whole bunch of lucky breaks, from people who had no reason to give you a break. They gave you a break. They could easily kick me out of the studio, but they didn't. I had long hair, Doc Marten boots. I'd wear those. It's the 90s, right? So I'd wear long johns and my boxer shorts over them. And I was just the 90s, like super grunge.
Beautiful. What a look.
It worked in my regular life, but it didn't work in a very conservative sports station. But they were really good to me, the bosses. They let me find my voice, and develop it. I'm really grateful for that.
That will, determination, and grace too, like that. Oh.
And apologies if I ramble through it all, but that's kind of what.
No, like to the point of what I'm trying to do here. That's just it. Like, would you say, if we just boil it down to those few words, would that be what, your hand-painted sign would say?
I used to ride across the country on my motorcycle. I would do these long trips. And whenever I would do it, a couple friends would text or whatever, because I'd go by myself and I'd camp along the side of the road. And I remember getting a message from Gord Downey saying, he texted me, he's like, I'm not going to sleep well until I know you're home safely in Canada. And it's because I had texted him a photograph. I had a patch made that was sewn onto my leather jacket that just said Grace too. So I took it with me everywhere I went. I also had MCA Rip and I had Joe Strummer. So I had Strummer. I wanted to, because when you're riding, I wanted to feel, all of that. But Gord, Grace too is, because the will and the determination is important, but to me, it's meaningless without grace. And my mother taught me about grace. I am a hard-edged man. Like I'm tough as fuck, good and bad. And I have to really cultivate positivity in my life. Because I'm pretty intense. And so grace is a very, very, very important goal, through all of it.
Like for yourself, for others, for every element. And that's the part that is easy to let slip.
Yeah.
When you're so determined to do and create and be seen. And
my default position is to self-isolate. So I'm very, very isolated. I know a lot of people, but I don't really see very many people. I don't talk to many people. I'm very alone by design, and you can quickly, that's not good for your brain to be this way. And all the brain science tells you how important community is. So in a weird way, I cultivate it online and I do this kind of stuff, but I need to remind myself to go out and do a thing. This week I've gone out every night, and I haven't gone out for months, really.
Gold star for all of your leaving your house. The shut-in that is George Stroumboulopoulos, everyone.
So I'm totally, what I do is I leave my house, I go to Apple, I do my show, I come right back, I get working on a movie, I play piano, I'll draw in a book, I do go for walks, so I do leave when I go for walks, but that's about it.
Yeah. I think that, to speak to that, we all tend to have this other thought of like, our lives are supposed to be a certain way. Whether or not we intend to think that way, it's always like looms around us. And even your explanation, right? Like, I'm this certain way. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how you are.
Yeah.
And to your point, by design, and the complete opposite of that is someone who goes out all the time and is super social, like awesome. Yeah. I think that the world needs all of those people, because if we were all in our house, we'd all be just talking on the internet or not at all.
That's right. Sure. I also, I've come to realize over the years that my brain is not, like, your brains are not your friend. They're not designed to make your life interesting. Your brain is designed to keep you alive. So fear, that's why fear is the way it is. So I am not governed by fear. I'm not governed by anxiety. I'm not governed by anything except for will and determination and grace too, but also desire. I'm a desirous man. So I want to experience the world. I want to feel things. I do most of it alone, mostly, not always, but I I had to learn a long time ago. Oh, my brain is a thing that I actually have to coach. I have to coach my brain.
Yes.
And I just can't do what my brain says to do. I think, there's lots of debate about free will and where you sit in your spectrum and how much free will you actually have, and that's fine. But I fundamentally believe in no limits. So I will coach my brain, and I'm cognizant enough to know that I want to be able to do a thing, but I need a year of coaching my brain to put me in that spot. I mean, you know this at a better level than I do, right? Because I'm largely uncoachable, and but I've worked on that. So I now have to coach my brain. So be careful what you wish for, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I found that too, to that point, like to answer that from my side. Yeah. Yeah. I have learned how to be coachable,
Yeah.
but I've also uncovered that like and this is a vulnerable comment, my desire to be seen and accepted externally drove that more than my desire to be doing the things I wanted to be doing,
Yeah,
which is only just discovering that now.
Yeah.
So coaching myself to do the things that I really want to do is fucking hard.
But I will, yes. I've interviewed, so my first interview ever, one-on-one in my entire career, was Scottie Pippen of the Chicago Bulls in the era. So I came up interviewing the greatest athletes of their era, right?
Yeah.
Of all time. I'm not sure you could do it any other way, Cassie. I think that what has to happen to the human brain to shave 100th of a second consistently on anything, I'm not sure you can win and be healthy. Sorry, rounded.
Yeah,
You can
or
be
do it
healthy,
just for yourself.
Yeah.
Everyone always says, "Oh, I do it because I love it."
Yeah,
Oh, when athletes answer that question that way, I just want to like drive to their house and be like, "What are you talking about? You hate it. You hate it more than you love it."
Yeah, and I actually think it's good for you to hate it.
Agree.
Because I
Agreed.
think that the brain, I do things every day that I don't want to do. I don't want to be healthy. I don't want to work out. I don't want to do this. I don't want to. But I'd rather sit in the couch and watch, movies and eat chips and,
Yes.
and go make bad decisions. But the fact that I do things, and this goes back to me in the radio studio when I was first cleaning up, I forced myself to do a thing I didn't want to do, and I actually think that healed my brain. I think the healing of the brain and strengthened my brain and strengthened my resolve was that I just am accustomed to doing things I don't want to do. Now, of course, I understand there's lots of situations in life where you shouldn't do stuff you don't want to do. But I'm also, I'm a particular kind of fella. So I can withstand the fire, and I like the fire. So it's like, all right, well, I don't want to do this thing and it's going to hurt, but fuck it. So that's kind of how I am.
And
That's
if we're
another thing,
discussing,
like, I'm joyful about life. Sorry to interrupt. So all this stuff I'm telling you is true about how I don't want to do this stuff and I blah, blah, blah. But what I am is joyous. So that's never left me from when I was a kid. So I have all these things in my brain, the hard edge, all that stuff, but I'm joyous. And so that allows me to do all the things I don't want to do without who cares and a smile, because I'm fueled by joy, really.
Yeah. And that's the difference. So yes, the thought in your dumb brain that is getting in the way is like, oh, this is hard. I don't know how to do it. I don't want to do it. But if you are actually tapping into what's giving you joy, even if finding that joy means you have to learn a new thing, and to your point, it's going to take 7-hour sessions by yourself to nobody, then you're on the path.
Yeah.
But it's that consistency and that effort.
Totally. And now I've broke through all the other stuff. So what you're saying about I do it because I love it. Now I'll sit here with my DJ mixer, my hard drives full of music, and I will DJ a show for me.
Yes.
And I'm not streaming it. I'm just 3-4 hours playing songs for myself, putting it together. I don't need anybody else to hear. Probably if I could get away with the copyright, I would stream it, but
rules.
Yeah, rules, totally. But I genuinely and I know for me, if I'm starting to feel that cloud get into my brain, or am I sad? Am I depressed? What am I feeling? I know, put on the headphones, crank up the volume knob, find this song, play this song, and let's get you through the next 30 minutes, 20, 25 minutes. And then if I can get through the 25 after that, well, now I'm close to an hour and everything has started to change again in my body and my brain. So I've become very good at identifying how to survive,
Yeah.
and what brings me joy, and music and lights, and oh my God, yeah, I love it.
It's that noticing though. And that's not everyone's we're in a culture of busyness for the most part. Maybe not everywhere, but I would say for the majority of places.
It's
And
just
as such,
productivity porn, right?
right,
Productivity
right.
porn.
The like right now, I need it right now, and I need to do more, and I needed it yesterday, and
Now,
that
granted, I'm like that.
I know you are, but
but
the issue is that now you have had. I think, and yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when you speak to other people the way that you do, and you get these venues and these forums to like really think, that also helps you think.
Yeah,
For yourself.
for sure. And I believe firmly that I don't know how many people. I'm just sort of joking around with the number, but I think it's a real number. Somewhere around 10,000 people I've interviewed over the last 30 years, and I've been in the heads of a lot of strangers, and so I just learned an awful lot about life. And God, I'm so grateful for that. My I don't believe in a soul, but for lack of a better word, my soul is enriched because of these conversations, and I couldn't be luckier.
Yeah, you can say like your meat sack if you'd rather.
Well, it's just like that whatever the force
right?
keeps me alive. Like that's I'm lucky because I've learned from people.
Right. And that's what continues to allow you to feel joy.
That's it. You have to like, I think, to people, and most adults come to this place, that, and this very directly as a high performing athlete, you can win, but to keep winning is very hard. And so it's exhausting, but it's constantly, there's no stasis. I'm always, suddenly my brain chemistry's changed and my reality's changed. I got to shift this. And so, but I just finally feel okay. Well, time to, got to adjust.
Turn the corner. Again.
Yeah.
Again.
So that's, and maybe at the end, Cassie, maybe that's what life's really about. It's just the constant doing of the thing.
Well, of the exploration, of that curiosity.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we could get comfortable. That's true. Your brain's trying to keep you safe.
Yeah.
So everything you're seeing, all the directions, you're like, no. I'm just going to stay right here under this burrito blanket. Yeah. And I am good. Could
be. And I burned that blanket when I was 6. So I don't have any, and I have never, ever felt that. Maybe it's why I still watch hockey and motorcycle racing the way I do, because it's the one time where I just watch the game and everything else just shuts off. Anything else I watch, I'm working in my brain. When I'm watching the Habs lose, I just kind of, because I'm such a Habs fan, I just settle into it. And maybe that's why I watch it, to give my brain a little reprieve.
Let's hope that's what's happening there. Yeah. Just awake asleep.
Yeah.
But that's that self-awareness that I think we're all like trying for. Some of us more than others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What is something that you get asked a lot of questions? We talk about that. You get interviewed. I'm interviewing you. What is something that you wished people asked you more?
Oh, I don't know. But I have no artifice, right? This is me. And so what I am craving is, and I'm craving it every day, is the realest conversation that could exist. Mm. I don't like performance. I don't like the glitz and glamour of just making a production. They're fun, but anything that disconnects you and me from the realest it could possibly be, realer than we imagine, and I genuinely want that. But most people, when they approach me in interviews, they don't want to ask because they're not ready to do it, or or they don't know that I want that, or, everybody has their own thing. But I fundamentally believe that our only job on this planet is to inadvertently help somebody have a better day, or directly help them. Sometimes somebody's struggling with some grocery bags, you carry the bags. That's good. But there's going to be somebody who's going to watch this or listen to this. Are you posting video of this, by the way, or just audio?
Both.
Okay. So someone's going to be watching this, and they don't give a shit about me, and they might care about you.
They might care about you.
They might, but even if they didn't, there might be a thing that's a tiny unlock in their brain, the way I got an unlock when I heard a song. And then maybe so to me, that's actually what the human experience is about, which is, hey, I'm going to give you an unlock. You're going to give me an unlock, and we're going to get closer. And I don't believe in an afterlife, but I kind of wish I did. And I kind of wish that it was just a collection of the rooms that we unlocked. And so I feel like it's my job as a human being. Now, I don't have any skills outside of being very real and very comfortable, and I know how to communicate. But so with the best of my ability with what my skills are is to like, let's get to the heart of this. So I wish people would really, I do interviews sometimes, and I'm exhausted, and I am just like going, please, I just wish somebody would ask me a real question. Let's go. Like I want to get into it, and I'm happy to play by their rules if they don't want to do that, because I always want somebody else to have a good experience. But so it's not that I necessarily want them to ask me a question, but I really want them to be so brave, so courageous in a conversation, because when I'm dead, and you're dead, Cassie, may you live forever, but when we're dead,
either way, not this body, one way or another.
Today, and somebody who doesn't remember us, because what they say, you die twice, the last time you take a breath, and then the last time someone mentions your name. So years after that, somebody might stumble after the EMP, and there's this one little piece of data still on the hard drive. Where we don't matter. But maybe somebody would watch this and say, I think those two people really, really went for it today. And God, that's it, and who knows what they could do with that. And it doesn't matter for us. We're gone. Right.
And that's all I've ever wanted. When I thought about, like, you found this whole space in a completely different way than I did, but it was about that connection that I couldn't figure out at first. I was like, what is it about? Is it writing? Is it, so I go to journalism school. Great. Doesn't look anything like I did when I went to school. It was always the same thing for me. It was this. It was this conversation. It was this teaching other people about things that I know, about learning, unlocking, and just listening.
Must be interesting for you, because you come from such a solo experience in your quest for greatness. Even though you're part of a larger team per se, you're not. It's you. And it's hyper competitive, and it's hyper challenging, and there's, as much as people want you to win on your team, they want to be better than you.
They absolutely want you to lose.
So right. So you're so much of your achievement is tied to not the collective, that now you're experiencing the collective in a different way. And of course you have a life, so you have lots of things that you've at collectives, but coaching and all this stuff. But now your performance is tied to the us rather than the you. And that is really fascinating. And most interviewers, by the way, never fully understand that it's about the us. And they really don't. They either think it's about them, or they think it's about me. And it's not. It's us. And how we connect to somebody who can't see us right, or can't hear us right now, or can't connect to us in a real way right now. So that's an interesting transition you're on, or journey you're on.
I think that I was built on the us, though. Because when we met, skeleton was the thing, and notoriously is a thing that people know me for. But it was volleyball that like really did it, and that's the team, that's the us, and like the us of two. My parents both come from very large families, and while I'm an only child, that's the other disconnect, right? Of having these big us's, and this little solo me just floating in the earth, being like, what is this? Like, what's everyone else's problem? Why am I the only person that thinks these things? That whole journey has just brought me to the realization that like that was the fear to do this, was that I had to break apart, and the solo experience that was Skeleton was really damaging, in the same way that it was also like a powerful experience of winning and being propped up. The fallout from it was far more tragic than
Do you mean
perhaps has been
in
seen.
how you managed it when it ended?
Yes.
Oh, it's
Yes.
yeah, it's catastrophe, isn't it? It's also a totally mental sport. So what you
Mm.
have to do to hurdle yourself, because you put me on that thing, just on
I'll
that's
throw that clip up. I found it, by the way. I went and looked for it. I
oh
have
my
it.
God. I remember, because I didn't know you that well, and I remember thinking, what am I doing? This is going to be crazy. But now, granted, the first hill wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be, and they only
Correct,
put me on
correct.
half of it.
Just the
But
indoor. Yeah.
yeah, but that's a mental sport, man. So what you have to do to your brain to tell it to reduce its fear receptors, that would leave a mark for sure.
Yeah. Like you're saying, like I didn't set out to do something scary. And I think when people are like, oh my God, you must have this certain XYZ type of thought process. I'm like, no, I didn't realize that. I came
Yeah,
from other places where, that's not what I would have written on my like application.
yeah,
So
yeah.
when I found it, to your point about watching the Habs and just like zoning out, this is what I have a hard time explaining to people. Skeleton did that for me.
Yeah.
Like it was the only place when I laid on a sled for the first time, despite my complete chaotic experience of like everyone's, could only focus on that.
So
And
you know what that actually what did it for me? I mean, halves I zone out for fun, but uh, I had a big motorcycle crash in my 30s, and at mid 30s, at 37, I took motorcycle racing courses, and so I put my race bike on a track,
yeah.
and being in an actual race on a super dangerous machine
Mhm.
around a bunch of other people who are also being really like going for it, that there was a moment, like I knew I didn't end up finishing last. I thought I was, but there was a moment where I was going much faster than I thought I was capable of because I was in a race scenario. But there was a moment where for the first time in my racing career, which went over for fun, I passed a guy at a crazy speed.
Mm.
And then you have to very quickly brake, point the bike, and you go down and you're turning. And
Yeah.
my knee is scraping on the ground, right? And your spine elbow is over it on the ground. And I remember that feeling of passing him, and I could hear my knee scrape, my puck on my leather scrape very loudly. And I realized I heard it loudly because all the other noise was gone. And within like a tenth of a second, I had to get the bike up into I had to go from a righty to a lefty. So very quickly that, he's like, oh, here comes the gas again.
It's gone. It's gone.
And I could see the crowd. I could see that there were some spectators reacting to, because they were worried that I was going to die, because that'd be a bad headline if I cried on the court. Of course. So I remember how quiet it got. And somebody I was hanging out with at the time said, there's something to be said for your brain that you need to be there to get quiet. So I can completely relate to what you're talking about.
Right. And it happens, and it's so people always want to hear about like what it's like, right? They'll ask you like, oh, what's motorcycle racing like, or what's skeleton like? But that's just it, is it takes some time for you to go, wait a second, like
Yeah.
why did I like that so much? And
Yeah.
and how can I unpack that to like use in my life now? Because I have no ambition to get back on a skeleton sled and hurl myself down the Whistler track. Like, I'm good. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's something about that I miss,
Yeah.
right? Like
100%.
that feeling. So
100%.
look for it in other places, and not in a more curious way now, versus the like, oops, found it.
I read a lot of Buddhist stuff so I can remove my need for it, because I'm so used to performing all the time, and I still do every day on shows. But I hate the fact that it's become such a big part of my daily experience. I'm glad. I mean, I don't hate it. I love it.
Yeah.
But
See,
I
both.
realize
Told you. It's always both.
it's always both. But I realize it's like, fuck, this is, why am I, why? I see monks. So I know a showering monk, and I see him
Why?
just sitting there being fine. I'm like, God, that
What? Can I have
Oh,
that?
good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I work at it.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And not everybody wants that. Like, I think, you could say, oh, everyone would enjoy that, but some
Yeah.
people really wouldn't. And they're good. Kudos to you. But
Yeah.
to be able to sit and be,
Yeah.
wow.
Oh, yeah. It's a what a
Wow.
I'm looking at the book right now that I read a long time ago that's about this, called Against the Stream. And it was like a punk rock Buddhist recovery thing. And it's really, really interesting. Yeah.
Is that you right now? Your punk rock Buddhist recovery? That's
No. No. No.
not
I
anymore.
am no, I am a canvas that I am constantly throwing new paints and new designs on. I'm not a work in progress because this will never end. I'm just a messy canvas of ideas and expression, and that's good enough for me. But I do think I've had a lot of concussions, right? So I think I've had 6. So I can feel my brain in my head. Like I can feel it, and I can feel on every day pretty much. Sometimes I'll go a few days and I don't notice it, but I always have some version of a post-concussion syndrome thing, and it will sneak up on me in moments. And so I realized that, like, I really put my head through the ringer physically. So I've read a lot of stuff about it, and things like meditation apparently are good at rebuilding neural pathways. And I bought a drum kit, started teaching myself drums so I can rebuild neural path, because my body doesn't work the way it used to. Like my body will tell me walk through the doorway, and then I'll bump into the side of the door because I got a lot of my spatial reality is different because of all my fucking injuries. And I wouldn't trade it in for the world, by the way. I love what happened. I earned it. So a lot of the Buddhism thing was really less about the spirit. Now, I think you can only be immersed in a thing for so long before you will take on some of the tenets of it. But a lot of it was about, hey man, how do I just try to keep my brain feeling better than this? Because I don't like being nauseous, and I don't like being, oh, I'm going to pass out right now. Like I don't like that stuff that comes with all the brain injuries. So but when I go, there's this one guy, he's fully tattered up Buddhist guy. And for him, it came to him in jail. He was in jail. He's out, and there's a lot of, like, you'll have like your yoga moms there for sure, but you got a lot of pretty rough and tumble dudes that also show up to this class. And you see guys who just came out of they were just inside that day, and they've got their bag and they just got released, and now they're here because this guy's in recovery. So a lot of people who need, so it's just, you got a lot of people finding a way to be like, yeah, bro, whatever you need, man, whatever you need to get through tonight, go get it. I just love being around that kind of raw human experience, not in an exploitive way. I'm not gaining anything from it. I just love how real it is. And so for whatever reason, this guy, it just works for me. I'm not a Buddhist. I'm not into, I guess maybe I am into it, but I just love a bunch of people trying to be okay. Because I think the most punk rock thing you can do in this world today is be healthy, because there's so many market forces that don't want you to be healthy. All these this entrepreneur culture feeding anything that gets you into their funnel, and they're trying to keep you broke, and they're telling you they're not everybody. There's good ones, of course, but then you got the food system, which is poisoned, and you look at everything, and it's like, oh my God, man.
I know, it's super fucked up.
It's super
like
fucked up.
to put it plainly, we're in a system that just is against us constantly. Yes.
And now I'm seeing all these dudes who are just like anti-government people who are suddenly, with their beards and their wraparounds being anti-government. And I'm just like, guys, you are the government. Like the punk rock kids in the 80s were the ones telling you that this shit's bad.
We already tried. We tried.
You just don't like the fact that now people are being included. But I'm glad they're here anyway. We all agree now. It's like, yeah, of course the food system's poison. Of course it's poison. So what are we going to do? That's called extractive capitalism, by the way. And there's a difference between consumerism and capitalism. And there's a difference between expecting people to be perfect and reducing harm as opposed to eliminate. Like there's lots of ways that we can work together, but everybody's become so dogmatic. And I always say, you just listen to the wrong music, Because if you were listening to
Thank
Bad
you.
Religion and Rage Against the Machine, and you were listening to the Sex Pistols, and you were
Yeah.
listening to the Slits, you would know that this is coming.
You'd already have heard this. You already been
Totally,
told.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, problem solved. So just everyone just listen to better music.
If we listen to better music, I don't think the world would be fixed, but I think we'd have a better shot. I say that sincerely.
I agree. I agree. Okay. So much is changing as it always does for you. Where do I want to take this? So with the shift, so House of Strombo, I mean, I've watched a little bit of what you've put out recently. I'm always keeping an eye on you, make sure you're okay, you know. Much like Downey, making sure you get home safe.
I appreciate that.
And there's been a shift to your point, you know, you've admitted there's been a shift in how you want to experience. You're missing that much music time where you could really have that community. And to your point, even what you just discussed, right? It's about being together and people just like trying to exist in a way. So what does this all look like for you now? Like project us into a year from now, even further, maybe.
I have a voracious appetite for the human experience and living as true as I possibly can. And so I know that the freedom to do that now exists in us. Like my old talk show, the Red Chair Show, we're one of the, if not the first show on YouTube, like to have a YouTube presence. This is when YouTube first started. I heard about YouTube before it launched because my manager, who's still my brother, he told me about it because he was working with them. So we were the first show to be broadcasting our episodes or parts of them digitally.
Yeah, nice.
And the team that we worked with, we really cared about that. So it's not new to us to be in this world. And I've constantly worked my career to try to have fewer and fewer and fewer interests to serve, so to speak. And so what it looks like for me is I still love doing the music. I love doing the Apple Show. I play music around the world, 165 countries. I love it. But the talk space, I do like this is what this is it. Yeah. So it's House of Strombo. The music stuff is great. I'm working on a thing with Gabor Mate. I'm working on a thing with I'm trying to work. I'm working on a thing hopefully with Eckhart Tolle. But I'm also working on getting my favorite punk band that only a certain group of people know, but they worship, to play in my house. And so it's really just about, and I kind of feel like we're in our time capsule years in a way. And Joe Strummer, this is what he said to me that really stays with me. He said, so many artists are so busy trying to be timeless. He said, fuck that. Your job is to be here of your time. Yeah. Document your time. Be there for the people of your time. And I love that. And so I want to document and talk and share, and so that people get through today and I get through today and share a good song and you share a good song. And I don't have this bigger end goal, except that maybe, like I said, long time from now, the archive of humanity that we will contribute to will be one that the next group who find us can say, oh, you know what? Those guys didn't suck. Those guys, a lot of people suck in our era. They didn't suck. And that's the key.
Yeah. But what you're saying, right? Trying to be here for the now, like live in this time.
Yeah.
Why are we? And
I also am old. I'm so old. Like I'm old. I've done this a long,
100 years old.
Almost. Like I've done this so long that there are people who I meet or who interview me who they feel old in the business, and they weren't born when I started my first show, right? Don't
do that math. Don't do that to yourself. You know,
it really
not helping anyone.
But
math's hard.
It's hard. It's something to contend with, I'll tell you. But I really like the fact that I can do a thing now professionally that I couldn't do 15 years ago. I needed years of experience. I needed life. I need things to happen, good and bad. Other things that happened, I wish it wouldn't happen to anybody, but they happened to me. And how do you deal with that? How do you process? So I have a very different perspective on what somebody like me who does this for a living can do. And it's a thing I couldn't have done, like I said, years ago. And so I feel now like I'm just getting started. There's a whole group of people who only knew me from The Edge, a rock station in Toronto. Then there's a group of people who knew me from Much. And then I went to this talk show and I did that for a while. And then I did, so there's people around the world who like what, and I say that to say that when I'm doing that thing, that feels like the thing I'm doing, I should be
Yeah.
doing.
Yep.
But now I look back and go, oh, that thing that felt like the book of my life was just a chapter in my life. And so I have all these other chapters left ahead of me that I could never have written had I not gone through that. So I feel now like I can do a thing that I'm actually excited to do. And so that's why I do all my live stuff. And that's really what I'd like to do.
Yeah. And as you were reflecting on that like chapter experience that you are just like, okay, what was that? I had a similar realization one time that not everyone, this is what always gets me, is when you say things out loud and someone else is like, what? Like, that's how you see the world? Or they challenge it. And you're like, doesn't everyone think this? What? So that concept of, I said this, I think it was to a therapist. I think we were talking about something and I said, I feel as though it's like I was a different person in each of these other stories that I'm telling you, like this time of my life from here to here and then here to here. And I had to like remove different versions of myself or masks or otherwise. And I really have a hard time thinking about it in that talk therapy type of space, for example, about processing it. Because I'm like, but it's done. But to your point, it's about back to the like neural pathways and recreating those and rebuilding them. But it's such a mind fuck when you find out that other people don't see their lives that way in all these like different little instances. They're just having one experience.
Yeah.
Like, what? It's been the same.
But in a way, you are too having the one experience, right?
Yes.
Your body keeps score. And all of this is part of your wiring now. And now you choose to be aware of it, which is different, right? So it's a much easier life to be oblivious, and I envy that. I don't have that. To be self-aware is it's a reality that is different for sure. I look back at all the versions of me who did a thing, and I just think, you did the best you could with what you knew. And sometimes that was not good. And that's okay too. And because in the end, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter.
No.
And I've realized that over time, I don't care what I think about things. I care about how we dig up the bones of the modern experience and what can we ascertain from a thing. But what I think about a thing, it's just merely only meant to be the flick of a lighter. It's just a spark. What happens with that spark? That's the power. And I love looking back. And for me, it's because, and for you too, right? A lot of my growing up happened on camera. So people will send me clips of things I did. And what's amazing is that there are things sometimes I don't even remember doing. Somebody sent me a picture the other day and I was like, oh my God, I met that person. I didn't even know. Right. And, but I see the photo of me and I remember who that kid was. And I kind of look back on it and just think, oh, man, what a run, right? Like keep pushing, keep trying, never change. Like grow, but don't change. You know, I don't change. I'm the same. I still have a buddy of mine who I see every year at Burning Man, who I've known since the day I was born. The day I came back from the hospital.
Yeah.
When I was born, like we've been friends the whole time. The last 20 odd years of our life, we've lived in separate places, so we're not nearly as in contact as we used to be, but we sang every day. And when him and I sit down, we had breakfast in Whistler, December. We're exactly the same guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're the same guys. And life is hard and good. But at my core, I am 100% that kid. And I love the fact that I never lost that kid, because that kid fucking went for it. You know, like that kid went for it. And I respect anybody who goes for it. I don't care about the result. I don't care about those kinds of wins and losses. I don't care about that. I think they're cool, and I like it in sports, right?
Yeah,
sure. You know, where you win, and I like it when you get it right, but it's not the most interesting thing. The most interesting thing is the person who didn't know they could do it, probably couldn't do it, but they tried anyway. And I just love when people go for it. I celebrate it. Most of the bands I go see now, most of the plays I go see now are not the big, they're not the big things. I go, the other day I went to a poetry reading, and there was a guitar player, and I went to a punk show, and the bass player had only 2 strings, and there was like 8 people there. And I got as much out of that than I get out of anything, because I'm watching that kid or that a grown ass person reading a poem in front of 15 strangers, making us laugh. Then a punk rock legend walks in. Downtown LA is a crazy place, plays a song on a guitar. And then there's a 6-year-old kid there with his mom. And then his mom goes on and shares something vulnerable that she wrote. And I just adore how real that shit is.
Yeah.
Because anybody can go and do it again when you've done, hey, I'm going to play in front of 30,000. I've been on stage in front of 30,000 people before. Like, so for me to get on stage in front of 30,000 people, it's no big deal, because I've done it, you know, when I would go work at a radio station at Edge Fest or Lollapalooza or something. Right. But for somebody who's never been in front of 7 people to go stand up and read, like, that's a way bigger accomplishment than doing a tour in front of 100 million people over the course of 10. Like, so I look at the scale of the accomplishment and I just love it so much. So that's all I'm trying to dig up and go, how can I there's a Tom Waits lyric. I'm trying to squeeze all the life out of a lousy 2-day pass. And that's what I feel like I'm trying to do in this world. You know?
Yes. And I'm thinking about the comment you made about, I'm still that little, I'm still a little kid. 100%. And I have this thing that I do that I talk about all the time to people, that I often find myself imagining like grown up people, like what they look like as little kids. It happens all the time. It's happened my whole life. It's like an unfettered version of me, like looking at people being like, oh, I wonder what I see what you would have looked like as a little kid. And I've decided that is because that's how I am. Like, I am still that small Cassie, like little Cassie who just had these dreams and went after things. And I think that we all have that. And it's the people that reconnect to it or keep them alive somewhere, just a quiet whisper, that do those big things.
Do you know the secret? One of the secrets to the way I do interviews and the way I converse is that it's not just about TV or radio or podcasts. I would say 99% of the people I meet in the world and have in my life, I see them as 12-year-olds. So
maybe this is a secret that we had. We didn't know. Yeah.
And so when I interview people, it's, I see the journey. I know enough about them with the research that I can trace it back to when they were little. Yeah. And I see their face as they're little. And that's the key. The key is not to just think it, but to put your brain in a position to see it. Occasionally you meet somebody and you can't see them as a kid. Sometimes I've met people and I'm like, oh, I can't see the 12-year-old version of you, right? Because it's me as the 12-year-old version of me, right? So, because that's our core. That's before, whatever the age is, before you first realized you couldn't do it, right? Where the effort was so significant. Mm-hmm. So it's not about seeing people when they're young, but it's about seeing people before they really thought they knew they could do it. And I just think there's something really powerful. And most of my conversations that I have with people, all through all the interviews I do with bands, all the red chair stuff, that's when I meet people and I'm very comfortable around strangers. It's because we're all just kids. And you know what's crazy, Cassie, is that every human being walking around has a skeleton.
Right?
It's crazy.
Just
we're talking about
skeletons walking around.
Yeah, we're hopes and dreams and and I want this and I'm going to accomplish that and you're going to do that. And, okay, fucking great, bro. All that, like, you're a skeleton.
Yeah, you got bones in your body. You're keeping them together.
That you were just given when you were born and it grew, and you're going to go back to that, and then your bones are like, Jesus, what are we fighting about? You know, this is
yes. Like,
you know,
I do that with airplanes. I'm like, guys, a plane. Everyone's like, what? I'm like, but it flies in the sky. Are we still
Like,
not
yeah,
amazed by the
yeah,
things that
yeah,
are so amazing? Like
yeah.
us, like that, like, yeah,
What
just
a
that
thing, what a
wide-eyed,
thing.
crazy reality check
Yeah,
of the God simplify. Hello. Like you said, you're like, bro, great, great. Really excited for you and all
yeah,
your ambition,
yeah.
but also you have a skeleton inside of you.
Yeah, if you're not treating other people like they have a skeleton inside them, then you're doing it wrong, dude. You know, like like we're
Yeah.
people. Now, look, some people are so terrible, and that's we don't excuse their behaviors.
Mhm.
We don't excuse. Some people are just the worst, but most people are just trying to get whatever parts of their skeleton that still work through the day.
We're just trying to there's this is I'm gonna pull a quote, like we're just trying to walk each other home.
That's your job in life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Walk your friends home, even when they're fucking dumb and they do bad things.
Yeah. Just
Don't
get
abandon.
get home. Get them home. If they need help, walk them home.
One of my
Because you
really one of my really big character flaws is if I feel like I'm done, if a person like if I just need to cut somebody off, if I have a set of boundaries, it's hard to piss me off. Hard to. But if somebody does enough, I can just cut them out. Like I can just do it. Ice cold. And my ex said to me something really interesting. She said, because she knows me. She's like one of my best friends in the world. She said, "You want to discard behavior, not people." And I said, "Yeah, I need to remind myself of that." And then she said, "Yeah, sometimes you got to discard people because some people are just go
yeah.
over there. You can't be around them." But I think an awful lot about how you gotta walk your friends home at night, even when they're wrong, because who knows what you can talk about on that trip home,
Yeah. And that's where we're gonna end this.
Okay.
Because I think that's perfect. And you just spent so much time and will continue to spend so much time amplifying other people's voices. But I really, really wanted to hear from you. Maybe you're someone who believes in signs, or maybe you think it's all just coincidence. Either way, conversations like this make one thing clear. Life has a particular way of weaving moments together in ways that we don't always see at first. George's path wasn't random. It was shaped by choices, passions, and maybe a few nudges in the right direction. So whether you're searching for signs or just along for the stories, there is plenty more where this came from. So stick around. Who knows what we'll uncover next? A huge thanks to Michael Nielsen for keeping this show running smoothly, to Adam Del Perro for the killer tunes, and to you for being here. If you had a good time, do me a favor, subscribe, leave a review, or tell someone about it. I'm Cassie Haresh. This is There Were Signs, and you're here for a reason.